of our series, Medicine and Morals. Now we've gone through the issue of going to a doctor, and we've also gone now to the issue of transplants. Tonight we're going to be dealing with, the name of the class is Rolling the Dice. Now, why is it called Rolling the Dice? Thank God we've had tremendous advances in the medical field. I mean, if we would have had the same advances in the morals and ethical field as we have in the medical field, the world would be a better place. We had tremendous advances. What does that mean for the average individual? Where people that 10, 15, 20 years ago would be gone, today they have a chance to live. And we are extending life every day. Every day new things come up, new technology comes up, new medicines come up, and that allows for people that are critically ill, that what we would have written off long time ago, today they have what we call a new lease on life. Now, many of these medicines and drugs and medications, of course, are new, and many of them are risky. You know, they don't have a long life shelf, they don't have a long history, of curing people. And with all of these new experimentations and all of these new medications comes a certain risk involved. So today we're going to talk about that exact issue. According to Judaism, when and where and how may a person take a risk to extend their lives? Some people by nature are gamblers. They're gamblers. They don't care. They're ready to go to Vegas. They'll put a lot of money on one spin, on one hand, on one whatever it is, one roll of the dice. Win big, lose big. Right? Some people are much more careful. They're thoughtful, they're conservative, they have to see things through before they make a decision. And here it's going to play a big role of what kind of a person you are. Some people, just to give you an example from a poem by Dylan Thomas, are willing to go quietly into the night. Right? They're just, their doctors have told them about the worst news that they can hear, and they say to themselves, well, if this is going to be what the Lord intended, if this is the way it's going to be, I'm just going to take the rest of the time and put my affairs in order, and whatever it will be. Others will rage against the dying of the light. There are other people that are going to say, I don't care. For another day, for another hour, for another week, I don't care. I'm going to do whatever it takes for me to extend my life. I don't care. Okay, so there are those type of people, and those people, if you were rabbis and if you are in the medical field, are going to be faced with these kind of issues. They're going to come to you and they're going to ask you, what should I do? Now we're talking about critically ill people. We're not talking about a guy whose doctor has told them, take Benadryl. And the guy says, I take Benadryl. I mean, yes, just take the Benadryl and be quiet. Keep going. We're talking about here critically ill people that are now going to be faced with using experimental medications, experimental drugs, new things, and it may work, it may not work. But we have to see what, so we're going to take a number of different case studies and go through it. Okay? Because halacha, like I said to you before, Jewish law has an opinion about everything. There's nothing outside of this world that Jewish law does not have some kind of opinion. And we will see that not only does it have an opinion, it has a variety of opinions. And that may be an issue as well. But we'll see. Okay? Before we go on to the class, I need to explain to you two concepts that we're going to be dealing with here tonight. One is called Chaye Olam. The word for life in Hebrew is Chaye, to live. Olam is internal. La'olam for eternity. Now, most people, God willing, they're well, thank God, there's no illness. When we're in this kind of state and the world, we're just living and we're just going on and we don't see the end of our life, this is what we call Chaye Olam. We're living forever. That's it. Our life is extended. We're not thinking about mortality. We're not thinking about what's going to happen at the end of days. we're living. That's it. Most people, when they're young and middle-aged, they don't think about what's going to happen after 120 years. Chaye olam. We're going to live forever. Okay? What happens, unfortunately, when you're faced with a serious illness, right? And the doctor tells you, unfortunately, that your time is very tenuous and uncertain. We can't tell you how long you're going to go on for. It may be a week, it could be a month, it could be a year. We don't know. That is called chaye, life, sha'ah, temporary. We don't know. We don't know. Could be you got lucky, and the kind of illness that you have is slow growing, and you could live another year, 2 years, 3 years down the line, or you could be gone in a week. We don't know. So the second state that we're referring to is chaye sha'ah, a temporary life. Now, the question that we're going to be dealing with tonight primarily is people in state number 2. Right? State number 2, chaye sha'ah. When a person's living and he has no problems, okay, well, live forever. The chaye sha'ah, the ones that with the tenuous and uncertainty, you come now and you want to extend it. You want to get back to that first level, right? You want to get back to the chaye sha'ah. Extend my life, doctor. Right? That's what medicine is all about, extending our lives. When can you put at risk the chaye sha'ah? When could you put at risk this uncertainty for one more day, for one more week, give me? And that's going to be the crux of tonight's class. At what point can we do that? So we're going to start with a case study. Risky treatments, right? So risky treatments, because if it's not risky, we talked about last week about, transplantation, right? The more we are perfecting it, the more we're perfecting it, more poskim, more rabbis are allowing it, and more rabbis are encouraging it, and so on and so forth. It's now we're at this experimental stage that we're going to run into trouble. So let's take Tom. Tom, page 86, if you're following along in the student book. Tom is a 50-year-old heavy drinker and smoker. He is told that he has a serious heart disease that will lead to his death in the near future. Again, how long? We don't know. So what state is this Tom in now? Is he a chaye sha'ah? Right? Chaye sha'ah, right? It's temporary. We don't know. It could be a week, it could be a month, it could be a year. A quadruple bypass, together with a dramatic change in lifestyle, will alleviate his illness and allow him many more years of life. Well, where's he going to go? He's going to transverse from the chaye sha'ah to chaye olam, right? That's what he wants to do. He wants to have many more years. He wants to go back to the chaye olam, not have to worry about his mortality. Tom is aware that all such surgeries are risky. You're going for a quadruple bypass. It's not a walk in the park. I've told you many times, right? What is the definition of minor surgery? Surgery done on someone else. On me, no matter what, an ingrown toenail is major surgery. Somebody else, minor surgery. This major surgery, a quadruple bypass. But his case is complex, so on top of everything else, we have another problem over here. Tom's underlying health issues means that the chances of success are not great. That even though we've done quadruple bypass surgery, and it's done, and it's done, and it's done, and people come out of it, his chances are not so good. His doctors sensitively inform him that his chances for surviving are not higher than the chances for failure. Now, that's an important statement, because why?
50.
Thank you very much. Because if you read inside of that statement, it's 50-50. And if you remember from last week, there was a crucial point where rabbis will allow you to take a risk. And what is that crucial point? If chances for survival are greater than 50%. Because then it puts you into a different category. It's the chances are you going to survive, so they'll let you do it. Here, the doctor is telling you specifically, chances for survival are the same as chances for not making it.
When doctors say this, that your chances are 60-40 or 50-50, you know what? you go to a doctor right down the street who will now say it's 80-20.
Right.
So
No, we
it's
understand.
really the discretion of
Right.
the doctor
Right.
who's either conservative or...
Yeah, and that's, of course, that's absolutely true. I mean, Mark makes a good point. I mean, not everybody's going to come to consensus. Some will give him a 55-45 chance. I mean, does that mean that, but here he specifically writes this, of course, to tell us that here's going to be the issue that it's 50-50. That if the doctor would tell him, hey, it's a 90-10 chance, that would tip the scale over when we have to now decide what are we going to say to Tom. We're going to tip over. And then, so the case study wants to go 50-50. Okay?
Well, is 51 enough?
Well, 51 is enough if the doctor's consensus. I mean, if there's enough doctors that would tell him, the doctors in the hospital, his cardiologist, his internist, his family doctor, the surgeon, all get together and say there's a better than 50% chance that you're going to make it. Yes, that would make a difference. That would make a difference. Okay? Tom wants the surgery. Why shouldn't he want the surgery? He's dying. So he wants to live. He has many more things that he wants to accomplish in life. He wants it. He wants a chance at living long enough to see his grandchildren grow up. Well, fair. His wife, however, prefers to let nature take its course. We don't know why. The author doesn't give us the insight here why she would like him. Why? There could be a number of different reasons here. But she's worried about him. Let's just say that she's worried. She would rather have Tom for another month or 2 or 3 than lose them altogether. Because here again, you're not talking about a win-win situation. Could be a win-lose situation. If it was just a matter, hey, put him into the surgery and they open him up, close him up, and we could guarantee him his time back, even for the Chaye Shah, even for the few months or whatever he's going to have to live. Okay, then we a no-brainer. Here we're talking about something very different. We're talking about a risk here. He goes under the knife, he may not even have the Chaye Shah. So he's risking even that few months that he has to live, and his wife doesn't want that. His wife would rather have him around. His sister went in for surgery for heart problems just last year and died on the operating table. Her sister went in, so now she's lost her sister and she doesn't want to lose her husband. So she's playing it very conservative. He would rather gamble. He's a smoker, he's a drinker, he's lived life in the fast lane. He would like to make an end run for it. Okay? So, here's the first question to the class. Yes or no? What do you say to Tom? Should he go for the surgery? Should he not go for the surgery? He comes to you and he says to you, you're the rabbi, and he says, Rabbi, I'm stuck. I want the surgery. The doctor is telling me 50-50. My wife is adamantly against it. I haven't lived a good life. I know that. I haven't listened to my doctors. I should have stopped this long ago. But here I am. This is the case. What do we say to him?
Flip a coin.
Flip a coin? Just throw it up in the air. Well, you want to be able to say, yeah, that's something you could say to him, but there are arguments pro and there are arguments against doing this. What are some of the arguments that we would say that would do it? Why should we tell him to do it?
He's got a very short time to live.
Right?
He's going to probably extend his life better than...
A new lease on life, right? He's going to get a new lease on life. What else? What else? What's another compelling reason why we should tell him to do it? What? Well, he wants it because what does he want it for? Thank you very much. So there's another compelling reason, right? He wants to see his grandchildren grow up. This is that driving force for him. What else? What's another reason for for pushing him to not pushing him to do it, but a positive reason why he should go through with it? So we have number one is he's going to get a new lease on life. He could walk out, now he'll start exercising, he'll stop drinking, he'll stop smoking, have a new lease on life. Number two, he has this tremendous desire to see his grandchildren. What else?
The doctor could have been wrong.
The doctor could be wrong and he can have a better than 50-50 chance of making it. Yeah, what else?
At least 50%. So.
Right, what else? What else? There's one thing that I'm thinking of.
We promote life.
We promote life, so we want to tell him, hey, you know what? Try to do whatever you can to do that. What else?
Goes to a few other doctors.
Think about this. What does he have to lose?
Nothing.
Thank you. Thank you.
I mean,
He has nothing to lose. Okay? He's dying. We're not taking a live man, a well man. We're not taking a healthy man. We're taking an ill man here, very, very ill. Doctors tell him he's going to die sooner or later. He doesn't know how long. It could be a week, could be a month, could be 2 months. What's he got to lose? Nothing.
it's got 1 foot on the banana.
There you go. There you go. There you go. He's ready to go.
That's not really the Jewish.
Okay, so now these are 4 or 5 reasons why we would say to him, go for it, right? What are some of the reasons that if you're conservative, what would you say? What else would you say if you were the rabbi that you want to talk him out of it? His wife comes to you and begs you, please talk Tom out of it. What would be some of the reasons?
Experimental treatment.
Experimental treatment. We don't know if it's going to work or not. Well, quadruple bypass. I don't know if it's experimental. It's not experimental. It's not on the cutting edge. We know that it works. Whether it works on him, see, he has underlying factors here. Now, so number one, will it work on you? It's not going to work on you, Tom. I mean, unfortunately, there's some realities here. I mean, we're not living in a world of la la land. You lived a life that you abused your body. You abused your body, and it's not going to work on you, Tom. Sorry, Andrea.
I think he should really pray about it and then go with his gut feeling. Because I think.
No, listen. At the end of the day, that's what he's going to do. At the end of the day, the autonomy is going to say, "Hey, Tom, you got to make your own decision." That's not what we're talking here. You're the rabbi, and he's coming to you for advice. And your advice is now is going to be either pro or against. So we're talking about now why he shouldn't go through it. So number one reason is that he's in a special case over here that won't work. What else? Does he have nothing to lose? We said before he has nothing to lose. Does he have nothing to lose? Sure, thank you very much, Lee. He has a certain time here in life. He has a certain time here in life, whether it's going to be a month, 2 months, 3 months, we don't know. He's jeopardizing that. There is something to lose. You all agree there's nothing to lose. He does have something to lose. That Chaye Shah, that little part that he has, the doctors told him to live, he could blow it all. So it's not that he has nothing to lose. Go ahead, Evelyn, I'm sorry.
God says we should choose life.
What?
God says we should choose life.
And therefore?
We should go for it.
He should go for it, okay. But we're talking about now, why should he not go for it? Why he should not go for it? Now we said before we said we didn't choose life, but choosing life is a double-edged sword, right? Choosing life is it's not clear cut here, right? If you say v'chai b'hem, how would you interpret here? You have a Talmudic question here. How do you interpret life here? Life could mean do nothing, sit and do nothing. Because if you're going to go through the risky operation, you may take life in your own hands and you may get killed. So here we're not talking about it. It's not so clear cut that because we are going to have cases later on when there's no choice. When there's absolutely no choice. You got to do it, you have to do it, otherwise you're dead for sure. Here, he may mirror. Something could happen, a miracle could happen, Mashiach could come in the meantime. I mean, I've told you that story about, in the Middle Ages, the Jews and the places where they lived at were not always on great friendly terms in Eastern Europe. So there was this one point where there was this Poritz, there was this governor that was extremely friendly with the rabbi of the town. The Poritz himself was a Catholic. Well, a new bishop came into town and it just bothered him, this relationship between the rabbi and the Poritz. The Poritz meaning that he was the governor, the political leader of this area. It bothered him why they had this very close relationship with each other. So one day he says, you know what, you think the rabbi's a good friend of yours? He's not. You see your beloved dog? Your dog can't talk, but I know for a fact that his dog speaks Yiddish. You tell him that you want him to teach your dog how to speak Yiddish. So the Poritz calls in the rabbi and says, Rabbi, you didn't tell me that your dog speaks Yiddish. The rabbi already knew where this came from, his good friend the bishop. And the Poritz says, I'd like you to teach my dog how to speak Yiddish. The rabbi starts to deny it. No, my dog doesn't speak Yiddish. He only understands Yiddish. Doesn't even have a dog. All of that stuff. He barks in Yiddish, but he doesn't speak. The Poritz won't take no for an answer. The rabbi said, I give you 6 months, Rabbi. to either you teach my dog how to speak Yiddish, or I want all the Jews out of here. That was par for the course in Eastern Europe. Anyways, the people knew that the rabbi was going for a very serious appointment to the Parit, so he comes back. The rabbi is smiling, walking with the dog down the street in the Jewish ghetto. They see the rabbi smiling. They say, Rabbi, all the people in shul, why are you so happy? I mean, the guy gave you an impossible task. He says, impossible? What are you talking about? He gave us 6 months. You know what could happen in 6 months? Number one, the dog could die. Okay, we're out of it. Number two, the porridge could die. Right? Number three, the dog could start speaking Yiddish. Right? Jews always have hope. Right? There's always hope. Maybe one day the dog starts speaking Yiddish. So what are you getting nervous today for? We got 6 months. So Jewish attitude is, here you have, we're living. Okay, why make things worse? I got 3 months, 6 months. Who knows what could happen in 3 months from now? Mashiach could come. Now, tomorrow he could come. No problem. So here is not so clear-cut the case of he has nothing to lose. He has something to lose. And what else?
But he could live several months, 8 months, 9 months, and if he takes care of himself, maybe his chances.
See, but the problem is there's a good chance that he won't take care of himself. Here's another reason there's another reason for dissuading him to take the operation. Say to him, Tom, are you ready to make a radical change in your lifestyle? I mean, really, really radical. Stop drinking, stop eating, stop smoking, exercise. I mean, can you do that, Tom? Most people faced with that situation, yeah, some will. I'm not saying nobody will, but faced with that kind of situation, he may not want to, right? What about the hospitalization, the recovery time? It's long and hard. It's not so easy, you've got a quadruple bypass, you have to sit in the hospital, you got to do this, you got to that. I mean, these are all reasons why Tom should not go through with this operation, right? So here again, you have here a case that the man has chaye shah. The man has a limited time to live. He would love to extend that to chaye olam. And now we are going to try to the best of our ability now decipher this and break it down. What does the halacha, what does the Torah say? Is our responsibility at least to encourage him, because ultimately, who's going to make the decision? Tom. Tom's going to make the decision. Not the rabbis, not the doctors, not the judges. Tom is going to make the decision whether he wants to or he doesn't. And even his wife won't make the decision. He's an adult, he's going to make the decision. So let's see what some of the texts say about the importance of trying to save a life even when there is little chance of survival. Right? Even if there's a little chance of survival. Okay? Shabbos. We know how serious Shabbos is. The penalty for desecrating Shabbos is what? Death. This is how serious Shabbos is. So the time in the temple, when the temple stood and there was a Sanhedrin, there was a court there, and you desecrated the Sabbath, you're liable to receive the death penalty for desecrating the Shabbos. So I wanted to reinforce that because we're going to go through several scenarios about Shabbos desecration. We've also learned in the past that what happens on Shabbos if someone's life is in danger, you push it aside, right? God forbid the house is on fire and there's a child in there. You do everything you have to do, put out the fire, call the ambulance, whatever you could do, get the child out. Okay? What happens if it's a case where chances of survival are very, very, very slim? The house is already on fire for half an hour, and what's the chances of someone surviving the fire? Okay, should we? Okay, so here's the first case. This is from Maimonides. Okay, if a building collapsed on Shabbos, page 87, and there is doubt whether or not a person is buried underneath, we don't know. The building collapsed and someone said, I think someone was in there. Okay, we must clear the rubble and attempt a rescue despite the prohibition of doing such work on the Sabbath, even though it's only a doubt. We don't even know if there's a person down there. But even if there's a question of whether someone is down there, you do everything. If a person was discovered to be alive, if we know, we hear something, like the miners in Chile, right? Could you rescue them on Shabbos? right? You're allowed to rescue them on Shabbos. Do everything you have, you can to get them out on Shabbos, even if crushed by the falling debris to the extent of being fatally wounded. I mean, the chances of this guy, the building came upon him, but he's still breathing, even though he has minutes left, literally minutes left to live. We still continue to clear the rubble and to allow the victim to live a short while longer. Even if we can extend his life 5 minutes. 5 minutes, that's all. If we can extend his life 5 minutes, we clear away the rubble, we do everything to desecrate that Shabbos. Even we know that the end is not going to be a very good result. We don't care. 5 minutes of life is Chaye Shah. Even 5 minutes we want to extend his life. So according to this Rambam, if I said to Tom, what are you going to do? So even to extend life, I want to try whatever I can, right? This Rambam would say, if he was around, and he'd say, Tom, you have a chance to extend your life, even though it's risky. You know what? To live another day, another year, another month, we may want to do that. Okay? Now why? Why are we doing that? Here's a guy that's going to die anyways. The sanctity of Shabbos is paramount in Judaism. Do you know what Shabbos means? When Shabbos comes into the world, it's an unbelievable change that happens to us. It's an unbelievable change. Why should we allow this to happen? For 5 minutes? For 5 minutes? What?
Life is precious.
Life is precious? Okay. Let's see.
Gives him his last
Why?
word talking to God.
Thank you very much. That's it. We want to give him an opportunity. We want to give him an opportunity to make, say farewell, vidui. At the end of life, there's a prayer that's called vidui, confession. Make peace with your maker, right? Is that the expression in America? Make peace with your maker. So the Meiri, one of the great commentators of the Middle Ages, said like this: even if it is clear that he will not survive for more than a short amount of time, an hour, 10 minutes, he's gone. I mean, there's nothing we can do. We're not going to save him. For during that time, he will be able to mentally repent and confess his wrongdoings. Is that a good reason? Do you agree with the Meiri? That's why we should do it? Because we know the guy is like living, that we want to give the guy an opportunity to repent and to confess his wrongdoings. Is that a good enough reason for desecrating the Shabbos? You think so? Okay, so we have to weigh here. We weigh on one hand, we have the desecration of the Shabbos. On the other hand, we have this issue of giving this guy time to confess his wrongdoings. And what if the guy doesn't want to confess his wrongdoings? So then what do? We make a mistake? Then we don't let him die? Throw another rock on him? Right? That kind of a situation. So the Meiri has a very narrow view of the whole situation. Because what are we doing here? We're doing this guy a favor, really, basically, right? We're extending him this opportunity to make good with the Maker. Okay? That's the Meiri's opinion. To me, that's short. It doesn't feel good, and that's the reason why we're going to extend his life. There's another reason. Why? Because that's from the Mishnah. The Mishnah says like this. It's a beautiful thought. You'll see on page 88, if we just consider text 1c. It's a beautiful Mishnah. This comes from the ethics of our fathers. The ethics of our fathers, as some of you may know, is one of the many books of what we call the Mishnah. If you want to know what the Mishnah is, you have to come to the Talmud class on Thursday night. But basically, it's the whole corpus of oral tradition, written down in many books. All the books, all of them, deal primarily with one issue: Jewish law. That's it. Except for one. Pirkei Avos. Ethics of our fathers. Ethics of our fathers deals with no law. There's no legal ruling in ethics of our fathers. What does it deal with? Miltzah de Bechasidusa. Matters of morality and ethics. How a person should live. Not legally. Not this is what you have to do. But if you want to live a moral and ethical life with principles and values, this is what you will do if you want to live as a good person. And what does it tell you in the book? A single moment of repentance and good deeds in this world is better than all of the world to come. One moment of life spent on this earth, doing something good, is better than everything you're going to get above. See, there are other religions that promise you a great hereafter. Judaism also has a hereafter. We have a heaven, and and it's very nice up there, and it's great, whatever's up there, But our main focus here has always been where? Down here. Up there is going to be the end result of what you were down here. I'm not looking to go up there. I'm not rushed to go up there. There's nothing greater up there waiting for me. What's waiting for me here is this opportunity to do something in this world. That's what it's all about. So what it really boils down to is one moment of life. Even if you give the guy one moment of life, life itself is so precious, is so dear. Now make no mistake, this idea has permeated the Jewish psyche and the Jewish soul for our betterment and for our detriment. Because we are so in love with life, we want to live so much that we can't sometimes do what we have to do because we love life so much. But that's a different story altogether. When it comes to Israel and fighting wars and all of those things, we bind ourselves with this love of life a lot. A lot. Okay? Why? Because it's all about being here. Just up there, whatever's going to meet you up there, it's great, fine. That'll be the end result of what you did down here. But one more minute, one more hour, one more opportunity to live. That living, that's what it's all about. So even though the Meiri said that it's great to live because you have a chance to make good with your Maker, that's part of it. In the big totality, it's that 1 minute of life that we want to have. Go ahead. Rabbi.
What about the situation where the man is basically kept alive by machines?
Okay.
Jewish law doesn't allow you to pull the plug.
Right, correct.
Is it life?
It's life. It's life, and it's life. Your question would be more about the quality of life. It's life. The guy's living. Is it quality? Is this the way the guy would want to live? Is this the end of the day that we expected to end in this situation? It's a very terrible, horrible position to be in. It's horrible. It's horrible. It's horrible for the family. It's horrible for the person. It's horrible for the doctor. It's horrible. It's a terrible situation. So in those kind of situations, you've got to really sit down and work hard to find out what the end really is. You've got to find out what does he want, how does he want it, where does he. I mean, it's a terrible situation. But if we could, in this case, extend life even an hour for him, we have to do it because life is the very essence of our foundation, the very essence. Now, sometimes with medical miracles. Yeah, you guys can end up on a respirator. It's, of course, I don't know if the quality is there. But in general, life is to us paramount. We want to live. Who wants to die? Nobody wants to die. Okay? So we continue with however it appears that the above reasoning is only an additional rationale. The actual law regarding the obligation to violate the Sabbath in order to save another does not depend on the performance of mitzvahs. Doesn't mean that we're giving you an opportunity to do another mitzvah. No. It is not that we suspend one mitzvah for the sake of many mitzvahs. Hey, you know what? We'll stop Shabbos in order to save him, and he's going to live. So he's going to be able to do thousands of more mitzvahs in his life, right? And there's a quote, say Shabbat Chachol, make your Shabbos profane in order for you to make many Shabbos holy. Right? So if you're in a fire, you put out the fire and you save the guy, you saved him, he can live another 20, 30, 40 years. How many Shabbos will he keep? Hundreds. Hundreds of Shabbos. That's not the reason for doing that. That's not the reason for violating the mitzvah. Rather, we suspend all the mitzvahs for the sake of life. Every mitzvah is set aside for the sake of life. The Torah is particular about the life of a human in and of itself. So whether this guy, because what about an atheist? What about an atheist who lives in the building? And the building falls on him, and he's not going to do any more mitzvahs?
But it's
Well, we don't save him?
But it's still life.
Of course we save him, right? Of course we save him. But if the whole idea was, in order to save this guy's life because he can do more mitzvahs, right? We give him another opportunity to make good with his maker. We give him an opportunity to confess his wrongdoings. What if he's an atheist? The guy's an old-time atheist. He denies God, doesn't believe in God, so we're not going to save him? Of course we're going to save him.
But he can do other mitzvahs.
Sure, he can do other mitzvahs. He can teach our people how not to be. That's a mitzvah in of itself. His life, we save his life in order to... Go ahead.
I think preserving life is our way of praising God for making us to begin with.
Absolutely. That's exactly it, because we were created in His image. So therefore, saving a life is saving the whole world.
It may not be that it's all about what the guy is going to be preserved to do. It's more about what our duty is to another person, regardless
Sure.
of what sin they may or may not
Absolutely.
do.
Absolutely. So when we talk about Tom's situation, based upon the above mentioned readings that we've done from various sources in Jewish law and others, what do we say now? Now we talk about we want to live, right? In this case, even in Tom's case, there is indeed something to lose should the search tree be unsuccessful, right? No more we're talking about, remember we talked about in the beginning, you have nothing to lose. I'm sure you have to lose, right? Because even if you lived 3 more days, even if you lived 3 more weeks, 3 more hours, 3 more months, there's something to lose. You have to weigh that in the equation. You're going to put that into the equation and understand, hey, Tom, you know what, don't be so flippant. I know you're going to come in there and you've been a gambler your whole life and say, Doc, you know what, cut me up, baby. I don't want to live the way I lived. Wait, think about this through, Tom. Okay, you may want to see your grandchildren, but, you got a tomorrow and the next day and the next day and the next day. Are you willing to throw that all away? Gamble it all away? So here we have to really weigh. I mean, it's a very, very sensitive situation over here. That's all we're saying. The question. Okay. So now we've ended with that, right? Now we have a question like this. Okay, we've told Tom, you have to be serious about what your decision is. It's not you have nothing to lose. You have something to lose. But then Tom comes back and says to you, what? I'm betting on Chai Olam. That's what I'm doing. I'm betting on Chai Olam. Yes, I understand I have something to lose. In life, everything. You walk across the street, everyone will tell you there's a risk factor. What's the old saying? Living is hazardous to your health. Right? Every day you get older, your metabolism slows down, things come in, you breathe toxins, just living is bad. Right? Right, yeah, it's important for him to have that. So here's in life, you have all of these things. Now, Tom is coming here and he's saying to you, Rabbi, everything you said to me and try to dissuade me is all true. It's all true. Yes. I may go and I may die, and I'm even living 1, 2, 3, 4 more weeks is important, but I'm betting on something. I'm betting I want to see my grandchildren. I want to bet that I'm going to live for a long time. I know that I'm going to get into that room and the doctors are going to operate and I'm going to come out of it. Okay? What do you say to him?
Good luck.
Yeah? So now, this is a case where there's a certain short term versus the possibility of full and normal life. What do you do? What did Allah say? And here you have Bari, which is a concept in the Talmud, which is a certain short period. And here you have a Shema. Here you have a possibility. Bari v'Shema. Bari certain, Shema possibility. What do you do? What do you say? This is a very difficult thing for a rabbi to answer.
Well, there is something in the prophets, I think it was Hosea, that said that a man shall basically live by his faith. So if his faith to live is in the operation, then you can honor that by saying your faith is what you're going by. So we're gonna honor.
Tell him
his
to go through the operation?
belief, go the
He
way
believes that
believes.
what? That he's gonna make it, or his faith is about God? What is his?
Yeah,
His faith is in the
well,
doctor?
His faith is in whatever it is. He may not have ever been a believer in God, but his faith is telling him that he can go through the operation. That's probably something you want to honor. I would say.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We will definitely honor whatever he wants to do. We have to know what we're gonna tell him to do. He wants to know from you. He's sitting in front of you. He wants to know, what are you gonna tell him? What does the Torah tell him to do? He's asking you.
Choose life.
What? Choose life. What is life then? Is life going through the operation or not going through the operation? Well, what is it?
Well,
Is it? Is it telling him take the risk? Don't take the risk. So let's see what he says. Let's see what Rabbi Yaakov Reicher says. The question is from an expert doctor regarding a patient who's terminally ill. The prognosis of all the doctors is that he will die within the next couple of days. That's it, he's gone, he's finished. However, they suggest that there's a medicine that may cure him, but may cause him to die within a couple of hours of taking it. Is it permitted to administer the medicine? Because don't forget here, there's also responsibility on the doctor's part. Because if the doctor gives him the medicine, he dies, and it could be a ritzayah, he could be a killer. Why did you give him the medication? Why did you give him the medicine for, doctor? You killed him away. So what does he answer here? Answer. Since this is a matter of life and death, okay, because the guy is certain to die. It's a matter of life and death. One needs to consider the question with great care, thoroughly reviewing the relevant passages in the Talmud and halachic works. 4, if someone kills a single person, as it is, he has destroyed an entire world. And conversely, if someone saves a single person, it is as if he had upheld the entire world. So what he's telling you here, basically, it's not giving you an answer, but he's telling you you have to take this matter very seriously over here. You can't be flippant in the answer to the guy. You can't say to him, take the medicine or don't take the medicine. Because if he takes the medicine and he dies, what have you just done to him? You've killed him. If you don't take the medicine, you've also killed him because you're withholding. You may. So we have a question over here. What do? The doctor calls you up and says, Rabbi, I have this patient in front of me. This is what poskim are for. This is why we have codifiers here in Jewish law. And the patient is sitting over there. The doctor calls him up. He says, I'm sitting with the patient over here. What shall we do, Rabbi? What does the Torah tell us to do? Give him, not give him. It's a very difficult question to answer, right? Don't give him, he's going to die. Give him, it may extend his life, but there's risks involved. So what do you say? So there are principles in the Gemara. So thank God we have precedent. And this is why there are very few excellent codifiers. Because what does codification mean in Jewish law? It means that you understand all of the precedent that came beforehand. It's not that you're sitting over there and say, okay, you know what, Timmons, I don't know if he meant it seriously, but you know what, you could take, the rabbi could be sitting in his office and say, okay, heads means give, tails means no give. I mean, I don't want that kind of a rabbi. I want a rabbi with a precedent that is going to tell me what does the Gemara say, and by extension, what the Gemara says that means that the word of Hashem through the Torah is telling me this is what I have to do. Okay? So what is it? It would seem that we should follow the principle, it is preferable to sit and do nothing. Shev v'al taseh means sit and do nothing. Don't do it. Why? Even if the ill person is already at crisis, even is in the final throes of life. Okay? So one of the codifiers says over here, he answers, it would seem that in this case, because the risk is unbelievable, he may die, the best thing to do here is shev al taseh. Don't do anything. Don't do anything. Even if the person is a crisis, he's going to die right now. He's finished. He's already, we see already here, he's in the last minutes. Don't administer the medication. Shev al taseh. Okay? There's such a principle. Sit and do nothing about it because the risk is too high over here to do anything. The risk is too high to do anything. Okay? It's not easy to do that. I'm not saying emotionally it's very difficult because the family's sitting around and what do they want? They would want it to be extended whatever it is. Here, the responsibility of the doctor is to listen to the Rav. The Rav tells him, shev al taseh, don't do anything, don't administer the medication. That's the way it is. We're going to let nature take its course and put it in the hands of the Rabbi Yisrael and put it in the hands of God Almighty. And this case is extended to a number of different principles. Shev al taseh, sit and do nothing. It's not only about medication, But there's just, you know what, if you're in a doubt what you should do, A, B, better sit and do nothing and let whatever's going to happen is going to happen. Right? For example, this has something to do with, if, let's say, myself and Arnold, we have a little bit of a dispute about certain monies that have passed between us. Well, I'm claiming that Arnold had taken a loan from me, and he was refusing to pay it back. No, I thought I was a nice guy. He needed a loan. I extended him the loan. Now I come to collect the loan. Arnold is denying that he's no loan. What do we do? What do two Jews do? Yeah, forget it. That's not in Judaism. That's forget that. What do? You go to Bezdin. You go to court. Okay, so I'm going to take Arnold to court. Okay, 3 rabbis are sitting there. Abba Perelmuter is there. Arnold is standing there, and they ask us to give our arguments. I say Arnold came to me one day after shul and asked to borrow a certain amount of money. I gave him the money. He said he'll pay it back within 2 weeks. 3 weeks have gone by. I figured, I'll give him a week's grace. So I come to him this morning and he denies it. You look at Arnold and say, Arnold, what do you say to this? The rabbi has said that he lent you some money. The rabbi never lent me money. What are you guys talking about? See, maybe another Arnold. The guy looks like me in shul. I don't know. Maybe he's confusing me with somebody else that davens on this table, even though there's only 2 guys on our table. When we daven, me and Arnold are the only 2 participants on our table, but still, it could be somebody else. There's a lot of guys in shul with a beard like this. I don't know. I never took any money from him. What's the ruling?
No witnesses.
No witnesses. Who's out?
You are.
Thank you very much. I'm out of luck. There's nothing else. Why? Shev aval taseh. Hamoitzi mechaveri olavaraya. You want to extract money out of your friend's pocket? The onus of responsibility is on you, not on him. Not on him. Shev aval taseh. We do nothing. We sit and do nothing until Perelmuter can produce a document. So I run outside and I produce a document. Forge a document. It doesn't help. Okay? I have nothing. I need either witnesses, I need a star, I need some proof that I did this. A recording, a taping, a YouTube, something. Show me something. As long as I do nothing, shev al taseh. The money stays in the possession of where it rests, it doesn't move. Shev al taseh. The rabbis sit and do nothing. Now, if I could come back and prove that something, or if Arnold then says, hey, you know what, the rabbi says 100, but I really only borrowed 50, then I'm in luck. Then I'm in luck. Because then at that point, what has he done? He's at least admitted something. So now the onus is going to be on him. But the only thing is going to be that in that particular case of if he says he owes me half, what he's going to do is pay me the 50, then take an oath that he doesn't owe me the other 50, and then I'm out the other 50. But if he denies it completely and I have no proof, shev al taseh. Sit and do nothing. And that is one of the guiding principles in the Talmud. That if something moves, if you want something to move, then it has to be a reason, a compelling reason for it to move, whether it's money, whether it's medicine, whether it's landed property, anything. Give me a reason why we should take it from this part to this place. If there's no compelling reason, shev al taseh. Sit and do nothing. So in this particular case, where the risk is so high of giving this guy that will do anything, but it can kill him right away, the Shvus Yaakov, one of the codifiers, I think, says, what do we do? That's it. Do nothing. Nothing. Forget about it. Okay? Now, it's interesting because in Talmudic times, as much as in many other times, the relationship between Jews and heathens and Gentiles were not that great. So the rabbis prohibited Jews from going to Gentile doctors. Why? Perhaps they're not going to cure him, they're going to kill him. So it became a prohibition to go to Gentile doctors. So now what happened? You're sitting in a town where you're sick, and you're getting sicker, and the only guy in town is a Gentile doctor. What do you do?
Go.
The rabbi said you can't go to a Gentile doctor because he can kill you. Here you're getting sicker and sicker and sicker. What do? So wait, man, he's going to kill you. He's going to deliberately kill you. You can't go, pikuach nefesh is not about sticking at the neck and letting a guy chop your head off, even if you're choking, right? That's not pikuach nefesh. He's going to deliberately kill you. So Rabbi Yochanan said like this, if you read this in the Talmud, if one is so sick that it is doubtful whether he will live or die, and the only physician available is a heathen who's an animosity to Jews, leads us to suspect that he may deliberately kill the patient, he should not turn to him for treatment. Right? Because there's a good chance that he's going to kill him. What should you do? Shev al taseh, right? Do nothing. Now that's what Rabbi is saying. Rabbi is saying Shev al taseh. But if without medical help the patient will surely die, so if it's a suffix, question whether he will live or die, don't go. But if he will surely die, then he may turn to him for treatment because, well, what are you going to lose? What are you going to lose? You're going to die, you die. If he kills you, he kills you. So you have nothing to lose here in this case. Go. The Talmud asks, what about Chai Shah? What about if you're telling me to go, what about Chai Shah? What is a good question, right? Because here we talk about even a moment of life is precious, and here I'm going to go to the heathen doctor, he may kill me, I'm even going to lose that 10 minutes of living. In this case, Chai Shah is disregarded. Here in this case, we don't look at Chai Shah. Okay? So here's the question. After everything is said and done. So we have two things. We have number one, we talked about betting on life, how much risk you should do on betting on life. And then we talked about, whether the value of a single moment, the importance of a single moment. So here you have like this. State of the patient. Perhaps the patient will die if untreated. Perhaps the doctor will kill the patient. Should he go to the patient? No. Patient will surely die if untreated. Perhaps the doctor will kill the patient. May he go? Yes. Okay? So very simple. If he's going to make it or not make it, the Talmud, however, questions the basis of Rabbi Yochanan's ruling, given inherent value of momentary life and the principle that we refrain from taking action. In the case of two undesirable choices, we need some proof that we can disregard momentary life for a chance of normal life expectancy. So in the argument itself, there was a great prophet by the name of Elisha. Elisha was Elijah's student. Everybody knows Elijah, Navi had a prophet, a student by the name of Elisha. Elisha, what? Ben Shunamis, that was him, Elisha ben Shunamis. And he was a guy, we have a lot of stories about him in the book of Kings. He was an interesting fellow. Anyways, he was also happened to be a doctor that can cure people from charas, right? Because Naaman was a great general. Naaman didn't know what to do. He was inflicted with charas, with leprosy. He came to Elisha. Elisha told him to bathe in the river. He went to the river and he was cured. Came out like a baby's soft skin. Wonderful. He wanted to give Elisha a present. Elisha refused, didn't want from him anything because this was an enemy of the Jewish people and he didn't want, but he cured him, goodbye. One of his students, Gehazi, decided, well, my spouse, he's an ideologue, he's very religious. I'm not that religious. So he ran after Naaman, he ran after the general, and he did take a present. When Elisha heard that he took a present, he got very angry and he cursed him, and he ended up with charas. And there were now 4 lepers outside of the city because the punishment, if you were inflicted with leprosy, which is not the modern day leprosy, we have a medical, this is a spiritual disease. The punishment was you had to sit outside of the camp. Just happened to be that outside of the camp was a city, Aram. They were sitting in the city, and here, let's pick it up here on page 3c. There were 4 men stricken with charas. The reason why they don't translate charas as leprosy is because it's not a physical ailment, it's a spiritual ailment. At the entrance of the gate, they said to one another, why are we sitting here until we die? Now, why were they going to die? Because what happened is that they laid siege to Samaria, the capital of Israel. They just encircled the city and they starved it to death. They were literally starving the people to death. And these 4 guys were sitting outside and they were starving. and everybody was literally starving to death. So they said to one another, what are we, crazy or something? You know what? The people inside of the siege, it's one thing, but we're outside the city, why should we starve to death? So let's go check out what's going on in the camp of the enemy. Now, what's the problem there? Because you don't know what's going to happen. Either they can kill you, they this, that. Here, they had what? They were starving. If we decide to enter the city, we will die. They're due to the famine in the city. And if we stay here, we'll also die. So now, let us go and let us defect to the Aramean camp, to the enemy. If they spare us, we will live. And if they don't, they'll kill us, we'll kill. Right? Because here, what?
Like the wicked doctor that will kill them if they go.
Right.
They're gonna die.
Yeah, we're gonna die. So here, we're talking about 4 people that had nothing to lose, right? Here was really a case that had nothing to lose. Why? They were starving to death. So they had 3 options. Number 1, staying put, sheval tase, and that what would happen end result? Dying. Second, go back into the city with the Jews, and what would happen then? Dying. Number 3, defection. Possibility, live, don't live. What do? A, B, or C?
Check it out.
C, right? You go with C because here you have nothing. Yeah, wait, here you're going to die. The city you're going to die. Let's do it. What happens at the end? Doesn't tell us over here. I think I don't know if they have that. At the end, they go into the city, and a great miracle happened. That the city is empty. The city of the Arameans, the blockade has in the middle of the night. God caused a great confusion among the Aramean army. They took off. The Perelmuter come into the camp. There's no one there. There's all this food and everything, and there's nothing there. And they saved the whole city of Samaria. There's a whole lesson that we can learn from that, but not for right now. So they go in and they save themselves. Okay? So, as someone had mentioned here before, this is the same case as the dangerous physician, right? The heathen physician, except in one very crucial, different situation. What is that?
Well, there was nobody else.
You see, because here they were going for food. Food was automatically, for sure, 100% going to cure them. Right? 100%. Because food cures starvation. I don't know if you know that. But if you're hungry and you eat, it's 100%, not 5% chance or 50 or 70% chance. Food solves hunger. That's the way it works in the world. So that's a 100% cause of going to the Aramean camp. See, even going to the dangerous physician, even then you don't know, it's uncertainty. So the uncertainty principle may force you to sheval tase. But if you knew 100%, is there a question of doing it? If you knew that 100% of this treatment was going to work, is there any question? Absolutely not. You would go to it. So that's why these guys had, what?
You don't know if they're going to give you the food.
They don't think they give it that, but the medicine certainly is going to work. If you get the medicine, it's certainly going to work. So if it is possible that this treatment, this is what the Shus Yaakov, the great Shus Yaakov, the Code of Fire says, if it is possible that this treatment will completely cure him from his illness, then we certainly disregard Chayei Shah. Forget about it. The doctor tells you, you know what, you have an ailment that is certainly curable. It's curable. I'm telling you, you have nothing to worry about. What do we say to the guy? Don't be silly. It's not sheval tase now anymore. Now it's no more sit and do nothing because there's a possibility that the doctor will kill you. This is now you have to take it. This is clearly proven by a aforementioned case in the Talmud. In our case too, since he will certainly die if the physician has not tried the medication, we ignore the certainty of a couple of days of life and seize the chance that he will be fully healed. However, the physician should not take this decision lightly. He must weigh the situation carefully in consultation with other expert physicians in his town, accepting the majority opinion and procure the agreement of the halachic authority of the town. That means if we think that it's going to work, it's a better chance that it's going to work, and the doctor's saying, you know, it's a good chance it's going to work, what do?
Take it.
Go for it, baby. You go for it. Right? Okay. Okay, so let's now bring this full circle in defining the parameters, because we talked about a lot of different cases. Okay? So what is the definition right now? We're going to talk about definitions. What's the definition of Chayei Shah? What did we say? Right? Something, in the case presented, Rabbi Reisher dealt with the patient who was going to die within a day or two if no treatment was administered. What if the patient would live without treatment for longer, for a week, a month, a year? Is it considered chayeshah, thus making risky treatment accessible? Where do we draw the line? Okay, so one question is, we have to define the parameters of exactly how much risk is involved, etc., etc. We know what is an acceptable risk, A, B, C, and D, and that's what we would call chayeshah. Where do we make this, where do we say to him yes, and where do we say to him no? I mean, if it's a very risky thing and it's going to save you for a few days, we may say no. Otherwise, we may say yes. How much risk is permitted? How much risk is permitted? Maybe 50 chance, 30% chance? We don't know, right? We're still debating about that. And how do we decide whether a risky treatment is successful? How do we know? What if the treatment is a possibility of significantly prolonging life without curing the illness? Doesn't cure it, just extends it. Is it still permissible to assume risk in this case? Or must the treatment bring about a total cure? Where did we have that case, the total cure? With the food, right? The food case, right? The food case was a total cure. What if it's only experimental? It's not going to cure him. It'll extend him a few weeks. Should we accept that risk? There's another question that we have to do. So, we'll start with number one. How do we define chayeshah? In the story of the 4 lepers who were suffering from hunger, they were in a dangerous situation. They would have definitely led to their death if they did not find food. It is reasonable, therefore, to conclude that one necessary factor for defining chayeshah is that it has to be diagnosed with a terminal condition. That means chayeshah cannot mean that, you know what, he's a little ill, but I wouldn't worry about it. Means that the doctor knows that this is going to kill him. This is going to kill him. So let's see what it's on page 94. Despite the fact that the boundary marking the transition from chayeshah to long-term life expectancy is not clearly delineated. How do you know? Is it 2 weeks? 6 weeks? A year? We don't know. It is logical to assume that as long as we know that the illness is already terminal, regardless of how much time will pass until death arrives, it is considered chayeshah. So the doctor doesn't know. Like, right, we talked about Anthony Mark had mentioned before, when you go to a doctor as a 60-40, and the same thing is true for predicting how long you have. You know, many people are terminal. But you know what? Life is terminal. No, go ahead.
I said the trick is not that they would go to be another.
That's like the joke, hey, doctor. The doctor comes into the patient, the doctor said, hey, Mrs. Cohen, you know what? Your check came back. She says, so did my arthritis. Yeah, okay? So, there's a back and forth between us. You know, while the above reading, so despite the fact, so Rav Kook, what does Rav Kook say? What does Rav Kook say? Let's just sum this up over here. He says, while in the above reading, Rabbi Kook justifies assuming risk so long as the patient has a terminal illness, even if death is not imminent. Right? Rav Kook extends chayeshah that even if death is not imminent, meaning that you will die from this. It could be a year. It doesn't mean Rabbi Kook is very lenient. Are you people familiar who Rabbi Kook was? Some people here in the room are nodding their heads. Rabbi Kook was one of a few rabbis, a dozen rabbis that had a profound effect on world Jewry in the past century. He was a rabbi that came from he was a Lithuanian. He moved to Palestine. It wasn't Israel yet. He was the first Ashkenazic chief rabbi of Palestine. And he had a profound effect. He was probably one of the leading proponents of what we call today religious Zionism. He had a profound effect on the country. Rav Kook was a giant of a man and took things very seriously. Wasn't flippant. So when he says that, you know what? When it comes to defining when we can take a risk, I want to extend it. I don't want to have to be the only guy that says, you know what, when you come into the room and you say to me, I only have 2 minutes to live, help me. No. Even if you come in and you say, you know what, I got a year. It's terminal, it has to be terminal, but not imminent. It doesn't have to be imminent. Even if that's the case, I'm allowing you to take a risk. I'm allowing you to take a risk. So Rav Kook's latitude is very long, right? Because he's willing to give up chayeshah. He's willing to give up even if it's a year. I'm just picking out a year off the top of my head. Even if it's a year, he's willing to give it up if it can extend to Chai Olam. That's how important him life is. He's willing to risk it. Okay? It does not clearly state the definition of chayeshah. It doesn't tell us. It is clear that life expectancy of 1 or 2 years is not considered Chayei Shah? Because if so, what is Chayei Olam? You can't say 2 years, because 2 years would be, then what's Chayei Olam? Of course, ultimately everyone is mortal. And what difference is there between 1 or 2 years or 100 years, since no one can live forever? Are we to categorize all life as Chayei Shah? And he's asking the question. Nor does it appear correct to say that Chayei Shah only refers to a situation in which the person will die from this specific illness that he is seeking a cure from, and not from other ailments. For what difference should it make? What illness will cause his death? Rather, it would appear that just as a treifa, people familiar with the term treif? Treif, right? Treif means not kosher, right? Something that's kosher is kosher, the other is treif. But that's not really what treif means. Treif means that if something is ripped to pieces, that's what treif means. It's literally, it's mauled and ravaged. That's what treif is. So even that, just as someone is mauled and ravaged is defined as an ill person that will not live more than 12 months, so too anyone whose illness will not live more than 12 months is considered to be in the category of Chayei Shah. So the Darkei Tshuva, this codifier of Shlomo Kluger, wants to make it more definable. He wants to say 12 months. But is it possible really to predict this? Can we predict that guy will die within 12 months? Sure, there are cases that you could. However, if the illness will cause death after 12 months, this is not Chayei Shah. Then he will not allow this to experiment. Rav Kook did not put this restriction on. The Darkei Tshuva said 12 months. Now, if you can die within 12 months, then go for it. After 12 months, no. Come on. I mean, well, everyone's going to die eventually, right? Everyone's going to die. So the question now is going to be, so we know, now we're going to find Chayei Shah. How long is Chayei Shah?
Less than
12 months. Less than 12 months. Okay? So we're getting to the crux of the situation already. So now where do we know? Question number 1 that we asked, what is the definition of Chayei Shah? We had 2 opinions. Rav Kook, no definition, as long as he's going to die from this illness. The Darkei Tshuva, Rav Kluger says, no, he doesn't have to die from this illness. He has to die from any illness within 12 months. 2 opinions. Right?
How can you, I mean, you're talking about precedent here. And Rabbi Kruger is before Rabbi Cook.
Okay.
So why aren't we, as knowledge increases, going with Rabbi Cook's as far as determining precedent here?
No, that's a very good question, because this is really the crux of how we make decisions. So now a rabbi in present day America will be faced with this. So now you have 2 leading codifiers that each have their own opinion. So now you have to look and you'd say, okay, in this case we could either define it Rabbi Cook's way, which is of course which is the way you really would like to, if you would want to say to this person, hey, you know what, you could go for it. You could go for it. You'd say, I'm following Rabbi Cook's. If you were a more conservative rabbi, and say, hey, you know, I don't want to, it has to be within 12 months, you could go with Rabbi Kluger. So then you have options. You have options. And for today, it's not like this on Hedron years ago, where, you know, you put down one statement and the other opinion becomes nullified. Here, both opinions are still valid, depending upon who you are and what you want to give the guys, what you want to say.
But you know, it also says in the I think it's in the Proverbs, withhold not good from your neighbor when it's in the power. Withhold not good from your neighbor when it's in the power of your hand to do it. I think we should be trying to determine as well, based on not just legal precedent but medical precedent, whether you're doing good in any given situation.
Of course.
And that should be a determining factor as to whether you go forward.
That's of course, that's how much risk is acceptable. That's the question that we can answer next. Now you have to sit down with the doctor. The guy wants to explain. The guy wants it. Now you have to sit down with the doctor, start figuring out what is acceptable, what is not an acceptable risk. Because then we're gonna butt into two ideas. Sheval Tase, right? We talked about sitting down and doing nothing, right? That's when the case of the guy was very ill and the possibilities of killing him. So Sheval Tase, do nothing. On the other hand, we have the whole idea of chasing Chayei Olam. We want to live forever. Or we want to extend our life for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years down the line. Right? People we talked about last week, right? With a new kidney, you could extend your life 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the line. So now the question becomes, how much risk is acceptable? So let's listen to Rabbi Waldenberg's opinion. However, this permission to operate is only if the chances of life and death as a result of the surgery are, what's the next word? Equal. Okay? Equal. But not if it is in the majority of cases the patient will die as a result of the operation. So the Tzitz Eliezer, which we had before last week, he was a very conservative guy. The Tzitz Eliezer, he's very adverse, very risk adverse. He says if the operation is going to help in the majority of cases, go for it. If it's not, so we have to have statistics. So according to Rabbi Waldenberg, you've got to look up the statistics, you've got to sit down with the doctor, and the doctor has to assure you that in the majority of the cases it's going to work. However, he's not the last word on it. As we know already, we see here, Rabbi Chaim Meiser Grodzinski, the Achiezer was a great rabbi during just before the war. He says in a situation when we have otherwise given up hope, that means the doctor says, look, it's over. We disregard Chayishah even for a remote possibility the patient will be healed. So he's what? More liberal. He says, my friend, you want to live and the doctor's told you you're going to get, it's a death sentence? What are you waiting for? And believe me, Rabbi Chaim Meiser was one of the great codifiers of the previous generation. Very few people have fallen into the category of Rabbi Chaim Meiser. So again, as we've always said in Judaism, guess what? When you have a question, what happens?
You have 3 answers.
3 answers. So you want to go to the Tzitz Eliezer, then you're not going to get much done. You're going to sit there and hang out. If you want to go with Rabbi Chaim Meiser was the one that was willing to roll the dice a little bit more and said if there's nothing, even if the doctor says, you know what, you're going to die, and you know what, chances are you are going to die from this, go for the operation. Don't wait. So it all depends what who you want to follow. And if a good rabbi, you'll give the guy the other options, and then he'll tell you, okay, Rabbi, you make the decision. What should I do? So you have to understand everything that goes on in life. We still haven't figured out Tom's situation yet. The last question is, how do we define a successful treatment? Guy tells you it has to be successful, right? This very, very risky business we're not interested in. And we have to define what is success. What is success? So he says like this. Rabbi Moshe, we talked about before, he lived, I met him, he passed away 20 years ago probably now. Regular life is life without illness. That is a national course of events. Will allow one to live life like a normal person. It goes without saying that this includes a case in which a patient is expected to be totally healed. So if a guy's totally healed, like the case of
Food.
Thank you. But even includes, but even includes, you know where, interestingly enough, the word Gesundheit started from? I just recently saw that. People never used to sneeze. It says in the Talmud, people never used to sneeze. It just started to let you know that you are going to eventually pass away. So Gesundheit, God should guard you from sneezing. So because sneezing was a very dangerous thing, it says so in the Gemara. People never used to sneeze. So therefore it says Gesundheit. What does it mean? You should be healthy because God forbid that a sneeze meant oy vey zmir. That's just a side. I'm not even charging you for that.
Remember the kids.
You know, when you sneeze, your heart stops. For a split second.
Oy vey.
That's
That's even a miracle in and of itself.
When did they
Okay.
say that started? Because the child that Elijah healed sneezed.
Sneezed,
7 times.
right.
Yeah.
But even includes 7 times, you see, right? But even includes the more common situation in which the patient is weak after surgery and needs to attend carefully to many things, such as a proper diet, avoid excessive exercise, and often taking medicine in order to avoid a relapse. This too is obviously like the life of a normal person. Since there are many weak people who need to be careful regarding these things, and it is possible for them to live for many years just as long as healthy people, and sometimes even longer. Okay? If, however, this is the key, the surgery will only help in that the patient will be able to continue in this ill state for a long period of time instead of a short period of time. What does that mean? Chayishah versus Chayolam. And there is also the possibility that a surgery can cause immediate death. Then, since even if the surgery will be successful, the patient will be prone to die from this illness at any time, even though the surgery will create the possibility for him to go on in this dangerous state for a long time, it is likely, my humble opinion, that one should not permit the surgery. That I am reluctant to allow the guy to go under the knife, even if it will extend it a little bit longer, and he'll be able to live more. Because he's eventually going to die from the same illness.
Quality of life.
Okay? Quality of life. Quality of life. So now, here, I'm going to ask you a series of questions, and we're going to see if you are awake with me. Okay? Let's look at the case study again. The case is followed by some questions. Which of them would be relevant to a rabbi trying to render a halachic decision in this case? Write R next to those that are relevant and I next to those that are irrelevant. Check your answers with a friend, explain your reasoning for cases about which the two of you disagree. Thomas a 50 smoker, he says it's 100 grain, and with a bypass, we know the case, right? Here are the questions. How heavily does Tom drink? Relevant, irrelevant? Irrelevant. Why is it relevant? Who cares how much he drinks? He's going to die. He has to stop drinking. So we care if he drinks 1 pint or 2 pints a day. Irrelevant. Is his illness terminal?
Yes.
Relevant, of course. Relevant, right? If it's not terminal, then it's a whole different story. But if it's relevant, one of the opinions cited uses this criteria to allow high-risk treatment, right? Because if he's going to die, the chances of us allowing him to go even further to experiment is what? It goes higher and higher as the illness gets worse and worse. So there's a graph here. If we were charting it by graph, chances of him dying go up, and then we're allowing greater risk, right? So that goes up. If the person's not that sick, then we're not going to allow him to go to any risky. So that's very relevant. How soon is he expected to die if no treatment is done? Relevant or not relevant? Relevant, of course. Of course. Why? Because one of the opinions cited maintains that only if he's expected to die within
A year.
I thank you so much, Lee. A year can high-risk treatment be undertaken. Remember that. We talked about the year, right? Rabbi Kluger talked about the 1 year window. So it's very relevant how long. Is there any hope that he can be cured without the need for making dietary changes? Is there any hope that he can be cured without the need for making dietary changes? Relevant or irrelevant? Totally irrelevant. Who cares? The guy makes dietary changes and we can be cured without dietary changes. We don't care. We're not talking about here going through a risky procedure. If the surgery is successful, will his health condition stabilize so that his risk of dying of heart disease is substantially reduced? Relevant or irrelevant? Relevant, right? Very relevant. Why? Because the surgeon succeeds in prolonging life but does not cure the underlying condition, risky treatment may not be permitted. That means, okay, you'll go through the surgery and it's still going to come out with a bad ticker. Oh, what have we done here? So he has to be able, we have to talk about that his stabilizing his heart in order for his risk of dying of a heart attack is substantially reduced. Will we say to zero? No. We can never say to zero, but it has to be substantially reduced. Do experts in the field concur with the opinion of his doctors? Relevant or not relevant? Relevant, right? Because why? The decision needs to be rendered by considering the best medical assessment of the situation. And if you go to Crown Heights, they will tell you they have the best world-renowned doctors in Crown Heights. Every doctor in Crown Heights is the world's best pediatrician, the best cardiologist, all live in Crown Heights. So we don't need any other opinions. If you live within the parameter of Crown Heights, you're the world's expert, no matter what. Okay? What is the best estimate of the chances for success given his underlying condition? Relevant, irrelevant? Of course. I mean, that's like the no-brainer of all no-brainers. Some believe the chance of success must be at least 50%, while some believe it must be substantial, 20 to 30. Have the doctors been sufficiently sensitive in their manner of informing him of the risk of failure? Sensitive or insensitive? Irrelevant or irrelevant? Relevant? Anybody say relevant to this? The sensitivity of the doctor? Anybody care about the sensitivity of the doctor? Would you like to have a nice guy, or would you like to have a good surgeon?
Good surgeon.
Therefore, thank you. If you want a nice guy, what do you say? Buy a dog, you'll have a friend. If you want to have a good surgeon, right? It's like the story of the drill sergeant, the Marine drill sergeant. Marine drill sergeants are not generally known for their sensitivity. They don't have sensitivity training. See, so he's a rough and gruff guy, and the Private Smith lost his grandfather. He said, "Smith, your grandfather died." As he was telling him this, the captain walked by and called in the drill sergeant and said, "Sergeant, I know that you're not the most cuddly guy here. I know that you're a drill sergeant here in the Marines, but come on, a little sensitivity. You don't go over to a guy and say, Smith, your grandfather died. That's the way to do it. You got to be a little more subtle in the way you say it, a little more sensitivity. Okay, fine. A few weeks later, another death occurs. He lines everybody up. He says, everybody with a grandfather, step forward. Not so fast, Watson. Right? A little more subtlety, sensitivity, yes. All right? I mean, drill sergeants, So do we care here in this case how sensitive the doctor is to your case? Relevant, irrelevant? Irrelevant. Does Tom's wife agree with his decision?
No.
Relevant, irrelevant?
Irrelevant, I guess.
Who says relevant?
Irrelevant.
Okay, married by. Thank you very much. Lee is definitely married, and his wife is holding a knife. No.
Because it can still affect how he feels about it.
Yeah, but really in the big decision,
And the big
it's
decision,
irrelevant.
it can affect.
Yeah, it can affect, it can, but even though she's crying, the matter is it's irrelevant here in this case. The only one we really care about is Tom, which leads us to question number 10. Is Tom willing to undertake the risk of the surgery? Relevant, non-relevant?
Relevant.
Oh, really? Is Tom willing to undertake the surgery? You think that's relevant?
Yes.
Come on, who says irrelevant? There's got to be one person here. No, who cares? Well, Tom is sleeping. We'll just drag him out and we'll put him under. Yeah, I think that's quite relevant because ultimately, who makes the decision? It's Tom. So all we really care if to sum this up is all the peripherals are totally irrelevant. What's relevant here is only the three things that we talked about. The risk, the success measure, and the difference of Chaye Shah and Chaye Olam. That's all that matters here. Lifespan of where he's going, risk involved over here, and the success of the procedure. Those three things are the only thing that matter. And of course, the willingness of the patient. I don't have to say that. Okay. So if you're a rabbi, those are your criteria. We just set it up for you. So if you're sitting there in your office and you get this call and someone says, Rabbi, this is Dr. So-and-so and I have the patient here and we're discussing, unfortunately, a very difficult situation and we're thinking about going through some experimental procedures. Now you have the criteria. Chaye Shah versus Chaye Olam. What's the risk-benefit factor? What is the success rate of it? And you can go with Rabbi Moshe, you can go with Tzitz Eliezer, you can go with Rabbi Kluger versus Rabbi Kol. I mean, you have now at least some basis for understanding how you're going to make the decision. It's not just fly by night. There's precedent involved, and based upon you know the person, and again, like I say, it also depends a lot on the willingness of the guy. If the guy is afraid of knives and afraid to go through surgery, what would you say to him? Is anybody around? If the guy is afraid of getting cut, what would you say to him?
You'll be asleep.
Absolutely not. You are not going through this surgery. Because he's deadly afraid. We had that last week. The guy's deadly afraid of going through a surgery. What are you going to say to the guy? Go through it? Right? He has a horrible attitude. He's going to freak out. Rabbi Moshe said that last week, right? He told us 2 weeks ago. But if the guy is so deadly afraid of going through this procedure that it's going to make him worse, even though the family is insisting upon him going through the procedure, and the procedure has a good chance of success, what's your responsibility to do? Say to him, don't do it. Because it's going to make him worse. He's going to die of fright. So what would it?
Said, tell him that you'll be unconscious.
Yeah, he'll be unconscious. That's his fear. That's his fear. His fear is getting beaten up. Say, you'll be beaten up. Oh, okay. That just helps me. Okay. Here's another case. Okay, so we don't know what happens in Tom's case. I leave it up to you as esteemed rabbis in the congregation that if Tom comes to meet with any of you, you'll direct him in the proper way of the Torah.
How many Jewish guys do you know named Tom?
Yeah.
More than you think. More than you think.
Can we drink and smoker?
What?
Can we drink and smoker?
Yeah, only if you want to. Baby Z, here's case study number 2. Baby Z has a 1 in a million chance of developing a rare metabolic disorder called molybdenum. Is it molybdenum? What? Molybdenum cofactor deficiency, and 0 chance of avoiding the inevitable death sentence that comes with it. The Australian girl has seemingly normal birth in May 2008, but within hours she began having multiple seizures, as many as 10 an hour. As sulfate built up, began to poison her brain. Molybdenum, like other organic metals, is essential for the human body. Its cofactor is a small, complicated molecule that acts as a carrier to help the metal interact with proteins and enzymes so they can function properly. When the cofactor is missing, toxic sulfate builds and begins to cause degeneration of neurons in the brain and eventually death. This is the first time I ever saw this, said Dr. Alex Veldman, the Monash pediatrician and neonatologist who headed up Baby Z's treatment. Veldman delivered the news that Baby Z had a fatal, untreatable disease, but the parents refused to give up. The mother is a mother, and she, Baby Z's family enlisted the help of a friend who was a biochemist at Monash University, one of the most research-intensive institutions in Australia, and the search for a cure began. On May 26th, they found a 2005 research paper by Schwartz, a former plant biologist who is now a research professor at the University of Cologne in Germany. The molybdenum cofactor is found widely throughout nature, and Schwartz was able to discover the precursor molecule in E. coli bacteria or gut flora that was chemically identical to that in humans, using mice as human models. He injected the animal with the cofactor, and instead of dying of the disorder in 8 days, they lived 100 days. Schwartz kept a large stock, thinking there might be one day be a human application. That day came when Veldman called about Baby Z, whose sulfate levels were growing daily. We were all very skeptical of the animal model because it had never been tried in humans, he said, but the baby would have certainly died. Excited that his drug might save a child, Schwartz packed his glass tubes of dry ice and sent it on a plane to Australia. Doctors had no idea of the proper dosages or side effects. We had a million questions, Veldman said, but he didn't want to let the chance to cure Baby Z slip away. They still knew they needed legal backup for what seemed a freestyle act. With the clock ticking, doctors approached the hospital ethics board and a family court for approval to use the experimental treatment. Now here's the question. You are a pediatric nurse in a neonatal unit where Baby Z is rapidly approaching death. Okay? You're a nurse. Your supervisor passes you on the way to a meeting to review the ethics of the case. Aren't you taking that medicals and morals course, she says? Why don't you join us and present the board with a 3-minute presentation on what Jewish law would say about this case? Should the parent be allowed to use this treatment on her child or not? Yes. Based on what we've learned so far, decide whether you want to argue for or against this treatment. In preparing your presentation, consider how this case is the same or different from other cases we have studied. Now, don't go on emotion. We know what emotion will tell you. What's that? You're the mother. What are you going to do? Shove it, right? You're going to tell the doctors, I don't care what you do, I'm going to steal my baby and steal. Remember the movie Q? Remember that movie Q? There was, I think it was called Q. Denzel Washington and needed a transplant for his son. He took the hospital hostage. Remember that? I think it was called, something like that. Not Q? So something like that. But it was the whole idea of, you know what a father's going to do to save his son. He think he was worried about what the rabbis would say, morals and ethics. Well, you can't bring a gun into a hospital. That's Avera number 1. And if it's a loaded gun, it's Avera number 2. And then hold hostage, Avera number 3. Do something against a person's will, Avera number 4. You think he cared about that, Avera? No. All he cared about was his kid is getting that transplant. He's going to save his kid's life. If he's going to go to prison, so be it. So we're not talking here emotions. We know if you're the mother, you're going to fight through that ethics committee, but you're the nurse. And they're asking you for your opinion on Jewish law. What are you going to say? So we're going to start with arguments in favor of Z's treatment. Give me one. Why should we let her go through it? There you go. Thank you very much. There you very much, right? This is no different than the cases of the 4 lepers, right? They're dying. She's dying. What did the 4 lepers do? They took chances in their own hands and they said, well, we don't care. We're going, right? We had Chaye Shah versus Chaye Olam. But that was a sure thing. So that would be, again, in the case of the argument against. But then here in this case, they're in the same condition. She's dying, they're dying, they went. Right? We know that some opinions, some codifiers allow even very risky, right? If you remember Rabbi Grodzinski, he said even risky treatment, as long as there's a slight chance of being saved. Not Ramesha, but Rabbi said, even if there's a small chance, go for it, right? Who knows, maybe she can live a normal life. So you have, based upon precedent, you go Reb Chaim Ozer, that even small risky chances would do, and the 4 lepers, they went. So we have to go. So there's one argument, there's arguments for it. Will be some arguments against, a lot of arguments against you, right?
What do you do?
Are you curing her?
Success rate.
So the success rate, we don't know. We have no success rate. It's never been treated before, right? No statistical analysis. We're missing that whole piece of statistical analysis, right? It's also, when you go through a risky procedure, like Tom's, for example, we know that it cures his heart, right? We don't know what this is going to do. You know. So we don't even know if this is the cure for this illness. So forget it. Number 2 is statistical analysis. We don't know. Normally you have to know age, condition, this, that. Again, number 3, and this is another thing that we haven't talked about before. How could the baby make a decision? Tom is an adult that can make a decision. How could the baby make a decision? So we don't know. We don't know what to do. So we have now cases, we have now arguments for and we have arguments against. Again, without emotion here. Without emotion. And as Marvin had said before, another argument against would be that here we don't know. It's risky. The case of the 4 lepers, we do. Food equals cure. Cure equals food. It's no question about it. Here we don't know.
But another reason for is the studies show that it doesn't hasten death, it just extended it without...
It prolongs it.
I don't know what the life of a mouse is. So.
Right, exactly. No, so it showed that there was some success. Even in animals, there was some success. So we know. So thank God for codifiers. Reb Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, in his books called the Mincha Shlomo, writes, if one is seriously sick and the physicians see no hope of saving the patient using standard drugs, the case is similar to the case of surgery which is permitted, although there is a possibility that if it does not succeed, the patient will die immediately. He goes, go for it. Similarly, it is permissible to use a doubtful drug in this case. So, according to Rabbi Auerbach, if this is a Chaye Shah, he agrees with Rabbi Chaim Ozer Grodzinski, you go for it. And is this a Chaye Shah?
Yes.
For sure, right? She's dying. This little girl is dying. Okay? However, even according to the view that allows experimental treatments, we must still address the question of risk assessment. Right? We don't know, okay? We define that she's dying. Okay, it's good. She's at high risk. But what about the risk assessment? If we talk about only 50-50, then what would happen in this case? We would say, no, right? It couldn't. So here that's a problem. So because we usually will not be able to estimate the statistics regarding success and failure of experimental medicine with any degree of precision, rabbis following these opinions will be more hesitant to permit. Because if you need 50-50, you may say no to this, because we don't have it. However, we have seen his opinion that allows the undertaking a risk even as a small remote chance. Again, we go back. And in the case of the child, what do? So most codifiers, and very few people will say that the parents, most people will agree that the parents make a decision for the child and family members for a patient that can make a decision. If the patient's a young child or adult does not know how to decide, then the mother makes the decision for them. If a child is in a life-threatening situation, one may take a risky experimental. If without the treatment, a child will definitely die and the treatment offers even a small chance of recovery before we disregard Chaye Shah. That's according to Rabbi Abraham S. Abraham, who's now living and he's the head of University of Hadassah Medical School, Hebrew University of Hadassah Medical School. So what do? Do we let her?
Yes.
We're the ethics board. Do we let her?
Yes.
Not let her. Do we let her? You're the ethics board. You can't be emotional here. You're an ethics board. This has never been done. The experiments have been done on mice. You're sitting over here dealing with a human being. You know what will happen if you let her? And she dies? What's the next thing? What's the next thing the family does here in America? What? Thank you very much. You allowed our daughter to go through an experimental treatment that was only done before on mice. She
And they lived
dies.
100 days.
What?
And the mice only lived 100 days.
No, mice, I mean, you know, if you go into court with that kind of a case, who do you think is going to win? If the parents, let's say, no, they don't do it, and the hospital does it. And they come into the case, you know what the hospital is liable for, the liability here? I mean, it's never been done before. They're taking a human being and going to be able to do it. So you're talking about here many options, many different things here that are clouding up the situation. You're the ethics board. What do you do? Yes, no. Who's yes? I'm yes. I'm going to go for yes. What? Listen, this is a kid's life. It's a kid's life, and we hope for the best, right? The bioethics panel scrutinized the treatment for 3 hours and agreed to support it. And the hospital's legal department also weighed in and agreed. Okay? They also got legal backup as up they needed from Australia's family court at 3:30 p.m. and believe me on June 6th. And at 5 they began treatment. That's the first thing you're going to do. Any hospital's going to do. They're going to look for a judge. The judge will allow them to do it. Then they're free. Then they can make you sign about 150 pages of legal text, and then let the treatments begin. The team proceeded cautiously injecting 10% of the doses they had calculated and waited 30 minutes between doses. The first hour the baby was good, sleeping, looking better. Within 2 days, sulfates level dropped from 300 to 80. On the 4th day, when Schwartz arrived as the experiment in action, baby Z was nearly normal. She was comatose before feeding tubes, and now she's looking around and drinking a bottle. The seizures that had been recurring 10 times an hour decreased to 2 or 3 times a day. Today, at 18 months old, baby Z is active and social, communicating with her parents, although she has some brain damage from the 6 weeks of sulfite poisoning. It's difficult to tell what her prognosis is in terms of development, but she's making progress. It was the most challenging and most traumatic time of our lives. We are looking at her now, and just as an absolute miracle, she has defied everybody. So, thank God that experimental treatment worked. And
What's the finish? If the parents agree, then I can.
But they may not have agreed. The bioethics would not have agreed. They said, this is too experimental for us to do. You don't want to, you could take it to another hospital. But that's the chiddush here. The chiddush here is not that the parents agreed. The parents are so obviously they agreed. And not even the chiddush that it worked. I think the biggest chiddush here is they allowed them to do it. I think that's the biggest chiddush. Now, when they cover themselves and recover themselves and recover, but they could have said, look, it's not for us, we're not interested, you're free to go to someplace else, and they try some other, there's other hospitals here in town. And of course, the greatest part of it is that it worked. Thank you. Is that it worked. So we start off by asking these difficult questions, and now we come to number one, to this idea of asking Hashem to teach us to count our days, the importance of our days. We talk about Chai Shah, just a little bit of experimental, just one more day, one more week, one more month, one more year is so important to us. So number one, it's a very personal decision. We've clearly established that this is going to be, again, if a guy's afraid to do it, the answer is no. If a guy wants to do it, the answer goes to yes. The importance of visiting somebody when they're sick, of helping them out, is an important thing here. Closure is an important thing. Very important thing within Judaism. Closure. And if you're a rabbi, and we face this all the time, unfortunately, at the end of life, and you have to sit down with the person and say to them, my friend, you got 6 weeks to go. You're not going to go through any treatment, and there's no treatment. Use this time wisely. Interesting. They say people that have gotten the worst news, you're terminal. You would think that what would happen now? The doctor says, and I'm using the you not to refer to you, but I'm just using the general you, that you have 6 weeks to live. You would think that what would these people do in 6 weeks? What would they do? Radically change what they do, right? 6 weeks, man, I'm climbing, I want to go to the Himalayas, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to do this, I want to do that. I got 6 weeks. I'm going to use every moment of those 6 weeks like to live. I'm not sleeping, I don't care, I'm not eating, I'm living. You know what most people do when they get to the thing? Exactly what they did yesterday. They'll make very, very, very few changes. Very few changes. Because we're creatures of habit. That's where it is. So part of the rabbi's responsibility is to sit down with the patient and to explain to them, hey, This is an opportunity to make closure if you have to visit anybody, if you have to ask forgiveness from somebody, if there's someone that you would like to talk to that you haven't spoken to in years. Now is the time to do it, because in 6 weeks, when they're playing taps, you're not going to have that opportunity. It's a very, very important thing. So we know why we hate to die with regrets, laying there in bed and regretting, oh, I should have. Now is the time to take care of it, not later. So, the key points tonight. A lot of key points. Went through a lot of stuff tonight. Chayesha, what is that? What's Chayesha? Temporary, right? It's vital, both because of what a person can accomplish in a mere moment and because of the inherent value of every second of human life. We had talked about two issues, right? The one he can still do mitzvahs, and also about the idea of life just in general is very important. A patient who has a short life expectancy may take on serious risk in the hope of a cure, provided all other conventional methods have failed, because we love life. The exact definition of a short life expectancy and the amount of risk allowed is a matter of debate, as we've seen. Different opinions, different times, different places. There's no obligation for patients to agree to risky treatment if it is not successful in most cases. Just to take a wild risk, no obligations. Patients may opt instead to allow an illness to take its course. So if you're going to go to some very, very, very risky, I remember years ago, they had this thing down, some cure for cancer down in Mexico.
The apricot seeds.
Was it apricot seeds? There was some
University of Illinois.
There was some experimental medication. What was it? Laetrile, that's it. Laetrile. You know, people run, experimental stuff. Are you obligated to take that? No.
This isn't even talking about, I don't think we were talking about obligation.
No, you said no. Here, no, just another, just if the patient doesn't want to. See, here we're going to talk about pikuach nefesh, pushing aside everything else. If the patient doesn't want to take a risky procedure, there's no obligation on him. There's no like v'chai b'hem. It's not like you have to eat. On Yom Kippur, there's a mitzvah. You have to break Yom Kippur to live. Here, there's no mitzvah to do that. There are halachic grounds to say that the permission to take risks applies as well to experimental medicine. There are halachic grounds to say that the permission to take risks applies as well to experimental medicine. That means you may take it if you want to. There's no obligation. But if you say, look, I'm going to die, I want to go for it, yeah, fine. Patients can make decisions on behalf of children who are unable to give their own consent to a risky procedure. Okay? As long as they have the children's best cause in their, We must support patients through the tough decisions regarding risk. Is that true? Okay? We must support patients through their tough decisions. Visiting the sick is an important mitzvah and serves multiple functions. There are numerous laws pertaining to the dying, ensuring that the last moments are peaceful and meaningful. You want to make them comfortable as possible, say vidui with them, what we call it last. They call it last rites. We don't have last rites, but we do have confession. What? Yeah. And it's like the old story of when the people were around and they said, what would you like to listen to? What would you like to be said at your funeral? So there was one gentleman said, I want them to say that I was a very loyal husband and a good father. And the other guy said, no, I want them to say that I was, a good provider, a good guy in the community. And the third guy says, all I want them to say is, look, he's breathing. All right, why? Because we love life. And let's go out and live it. All right. Okay. I hope we're getting somewhere. This is fascinating stuff. I mean, there's a lot of information here, a tremendous amount of information. Again, this is not halachic class. This is not, you're not sitting here in the smicha program when we're going through these tough cases to make a ruling. It's just giving us some little idea, a little bit of how to ask questions and what kind of questions that we need to ask. Those are the things. And tonight we went through a number of different scenarios. I hope that we're now a little bit more comfortable with, if God forbid we're in a situation, we know what we have to do. Next week, we go to another very, very fascinating and interesting thing, reproductive, things because